everyone, how are we all doing? Today I've got a super long interesting video for you with none other than naturalist Chris Sperring MBE. As well as a naturalist, he's a broadcaster, presenter, writer, photographer. He does a lot, basically. He's done some work for the BBC, and his work has also taken him around Europe as well. He's been a part of a lot of exciting projects, and he's also done quite a few talks around the country to go with that as well. So for someone with so much experience in the natural wonder that is England, I thought he would be a great person to get a chat with on the big cats in Britain topic. So for what you're about to watch, this was recorded via Zoom, so in some parts the audio quality isn't great. You're gonna have to bear with that. I also haven't done much of an edit because I wanted to keep it as authentic as possible. As always though, with technological conversations, there are going to be points where we sort of over talk each other. I say something and then he carries on talking. Stuff like that is going to get caught up, and obviously it makes for quite an awkward little bit. So again, just bear with that. With that said though, I really enjoyed this conversation and I really enjoyed listening to what Chris had to say, and hopefully we can do it again sometime when it isn't a lockdown, and I suppose we can sit face to face and have a proper conversation where we're not stuttering over each other's words trying to figure out who's talking. So without further ado, if you like this, don't forget to press the like button. Also, if you liked it that much, press subscribe with the notifications on. Please can I ask of you guys as well, if you did enjoy this and you think it's interesting, send this to the big cat stuff as well. So your Reddits, your Facebooks, anywhere there's big cat stuff, send it in there. Let people listen to this and what Chris has to say. For now though, sit back, relax and enjoy.
Yeah, my name's Chris Sperring, and a lifelong naturalist, probably since I was about 3, something like that. Yeah, and I've been heavily involved in nature conservation in this country and beyond this country's boundaries now. So I have a major passion for the interconnectivity of nature with itself and how we weave in and out of that.
Okay, lovely. Nice little start. That's very good for what we want to talk about today in the big cat stuff. And I suppose jumping straight into it, big cats in Britain. I'll talk a little bit about myself and where I sort of stand on it and whatever, just to get it across to you. I believe in the possibility of big cats being in Britain, but I don't believe there are currently any here. So in terms of like the links being rewilded, I can get on board with that being a thing. I'd like to see that. Same with wolves in Scotland. I'd like to see that being a thing. But as far as like the Exmoor beast or the beast of Bodmin or anything like that, I can't get on board with. I can't get on board with black leopards being in this country. Or
I'll tell you what, I'll stop you there now and say I've got to recommend Exmoor beast. It's a wonderful pint.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was expecting. But yeah, I mean, I'll get on it.
It is very good. It is very good. And it has to be done from the barrel.
Right, okay.
From the bottle, it's useless.
Straight from the tap.
Have it from the barrel, and I'll tell you what, it reaches many parts.
Oh, okay. Well, lovely. Well, I hope the viewers take something from that. But the actual Exmoor beast, I'm not a believer. Now, I'm going to pass it over to you, because obviously you've spent a lot of time outside, more than I have, and you're going to have seen things that many people haven't in this country, and around Europe as well, I suppose. In your time being a naturalist, when you say from about 3 years old, have you ever seen a wild big cat in this country?
Never.
Do you believe they could be here?
I believe there are always possibilities.
Yeah.
And what I seek from anything is proof.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit like however we approach any subject, we research. And we make sure that we look at the research that may be, the equivalent, I suppose, would be what's going on in the world at the moment politically.
Yeah.
I think it's important for all of us to read. We were gifted with that when we were in primary school. Mm-hmm. Instead of making assumptions and instead of speculation, you read. And I think it's important these days, thinking politically, to read the fake news as well as that is the truth.
Yeah.
Because then you make your own mind up. So back to the big cats, of course, and I think the same thing is there. I have never encountered one in this country. For my sins, I'm also known as a tracker.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been involved in 2 incidences where livestock has been, so say, affected by a big cat. And one incident which actually happened, well worthy of noting, is on the Mendip Hills, where the local people and the landowner were convinced that a big cat, and they decided that it was a lynx, was attacking sheep.
Right.
So the area of outstanding natural beauty ranger contacted me, head ranger contacted me and said, "Chris, can you come up? Can you come and have a look?" So I went up and had a look, and we found a fresh kill. And we had the landowner with us, and we had some people from the village with us. So I quietly said to him when we looked at the carcass, "This doesn't seem right." So we decided to branch away because I had a fresh set of tracks which I could follow. And we got so far away from the people themselves. I turned around and said to him, I said, "You've got 2 animals here attacking one. One is a big one, and the other one is a small one. And I'm guessing one is a lurcher and the other one is a terrier."
Right, okay.
So we followed the tracks, and lo and behold, the tracks led straight to a property, and in the garden was a lurcher and a terrier.
Oh, no.
So and the prosecutions followed. But
yeah.
the point is that I'm one of those people that won't rule it out, because I certainly know of, and again, you can say stories, but pretty substantiated stories, that when the law was changed, there were more than likely people that turned around and said, "This is too hot to handle. Off you go."
Are you in reference there to the Dangerous Wild Animals Act?
Yeah. So, but you've got to think back how long ago that was.
It's about 40 years ago.
If these were individual animals, then how long would they live? And if again they were individuals, what are their chances of meeting up? In other words, what's the longevity of that population? The other thing I think which is really interesting, and you reference the fact that I've traveled around Europe, is that when you go into an area where it's said to be something unusual, and that thing which is unusual is a major predator, you don't necessarily have to find the tracks, trails, and traces, etc. Look at what the other animals are doing, because their behavior will change dramatically if there is a big apex predator within that environment. And I've seen it in Sweden, where, for example, what was really interesting there, we stayed in an isolated cottage in the middle of the forest, and this was the middle of summer. And what was fascinating was that about 2:30 to 4:30 every morning, and it was relatively light, as you can imagine, the roe deer and the moose would make a beeline for our cottage. And they would graze right round the cottage. Now, why did they do that? Well, they did that. They went to people for security, because that was the time the wolf family came past.
Okay. So
their behavior was completely changed.
Yeah.
And the wolf wouldn't go near the building.
Right. Makes sense.
So this is something that they'd learned.
So I actually had that as a question down in my notes. So it was going to be, how would big cats in Britain affect the current wildlife? And I guess you've sort of answered that there, that you would see patterns of change in terms of like
change behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, take the situation here in my garden at the moment. I mean, during the winter time, we will have rats here, and you can reach a point with them whereby You literally walk down the garden path and you go, oh, there's a rat. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Now, what changes that behavior is nothing I do. What changes that behavior is when we lift the fence and let the fox come in. And when the fox comes, they're still there, but we just don't see them anymore. Why? Because suddenly there is a risk of major predation. And so their behavior has changed.
So have you heard about the big cats in Britain stuff before? Is it something you followed in your career?
Yeah. I've not followed it religiously.
Yeah.
But I am aware of it, and I'm aware of what people are saying. And again, I go back to, I wouldn't rule anything out, but I would almost copy what you said at the beginning, and that is that I see no evidence at the moment, and until I'm presented with that evidence, there was something that was videoed the other day. It was said to be I can't remember where it was. I just looked at it quickly and said, "No, it's a dog." It's just the way the thing was moving.
I get a lot of that. Yeah, I get. Yeah. I see so many videos, and because, like I say, it's a big part of my channel, and I've got this thing on my channel where it's cat review. So I do a little review of the stuff that people have seen, pictures and videos, and half of them are dogs, or half of them are one black pixel in a field, and it's just that's not.
So by now, you would have thought somebody. I mean, I use trail cams.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I've got them everywhere around here, and you'd have thought by now we'd have got something.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and I've not seen anything, and I do stand to be corrected if there is footage out there, but I've seen nothing that makes me think that there's anything out there at all. And in places where I've been, like Bodmin Moor, the Beast of Bodmin, Exmoor, Dartmoor, nothing within the current wildlife that's there tells me that they're changing their behavior because of a mega predator.
Yeah. So there are a few people in the sort of the big cat sphere that would say, and I went to a talk recently about this, and he claimed there were about 100 big cats in this country breeding.
Wow.
And there was no proof to back this up, and this is what I always struggle with as well, is I don't know how people can claim such things and there's nothing to back it up. Yeah.
Well, look at politics, my friend.
Yeah,
look at politics. That would be the difficult bit for me as well, because again, it goes back to what I was saying about, before I make a statement on anything, or before, if somebody says to me, what's your opinion on this? I need to do some research. I need to look at it. And if I haven't got that evidence in front of me, then I can't really claim anything at all. So I thirst for the information. I need that information that will allow me to form my own opinion.
I mean, this is really good you say this, because I'm of the exact same mindset, and I wish it would transfer over to other people in the sort of big cat community as well, because I'm part of a few groups on Facebook, and it's pure hysteria when someone films a domestic cat, puts it on Facebook, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, it's a puma cub, and it's not. And it's infuriating, but like you've just said, then you need to be informed and make your own sort of decision on that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is also, you referenced there the lynx reintroduction or possible reintroduction scheme, and I totally get bringing lynx in, because I've been to several places in Europe where lynx are European lynx are doing better than they were. Or so say better than they were, and I've actually been taken into locations where we're going to find them. And also, I seem to remember one of my first trips to Sweden. I went with a guy who was radio tracking them. Did we see any? No. So there's an animal which can effectively disappear within its environment, but you can find evidence of it everywhere, evidence of things that it's doing. And I'm not against the reintroduction in this country. I think that lynx is a really interesting, sensible, scientific project that could happen. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. I mean, a lot of conservationists are complaining about the size of the deer herd because of the effective damage that does on potential breeding sites such as scrublands and woodland for birds. So here's an animal which you must do this scientifically, bring it in and experiment. And I think I saw a plan a few years ago. I don't know who was proposing this, but to just release something like half a dozen females, a kind of suck it and see project, and then only introduce males once that project was deemed successful. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's the way forward to convince authorities, the great authorities around us. I mean, think about all the hassle that there's been with beavers, convincing the authorities that this is a good idea. We all knew it was a good idea, and the science from Europe backs that up. And we were dragging our heels in this country, not reintroducing beavers. Now it seems like they've accepted that beavers are a really good thing. Yeah. And I'm convinced that if whoever is in charge of reintroducing the lynx, if they play the cards right, keep it really scientific, then I think there's a good chance that within my lifetime, however long that's going to be, the lynx will be back, and it'll be back, and it'll be thriving. And I think I think it's brilliant.
I completely agree. Yeah, and one thing I would say
conservation. You see, conservation should be taking risks.
Yeah,
and I think one of the things that we often fail to do is take that risk. And as long as the risk is scientific, as long as it's going to be properly monitored, properly analysed, properly written up, and it also has to be honest. In other words, this worked or this didn't work.
Yeah.
So, and that's the point about taking the risk. We need risks.
So what would you say about the public opinion of, like, say for example, reintroducing lynx into this country? I think what you mentioned, by the way, was up in Kielder Forest, by the Lynx Trust, Lynx Wild Trust UK, something like that. That was.
Yes, I tried to make contact with them, but
it's impossible. I did the same thing.
Don't want to make contact.
No, it's weird, but they were rejected by the government for that. Apparently, their plan was a bit abysmal, but. I don't know much else about that, so it's just conjecture. No. But in terms of like a big cat's or a big predator's impact on the land, I don't know if you've ever seen this video about Yellowstone National Park and like how wolves change the rivers, the course of rivers, or something like that.
I'm well aware of the papers that were produced from that. Yes, yeah. So, yes, and they really highlight what I've been saying about how you can tell who's about.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go up in my woodland at the moment, I'll reach a certain point in that woodland where the small birds will tell me what the sparrowhawks are doing.
Right. Okay.
I don't need to see the sparrowhawk.
So, and I've got another thing I've got to ask you as well. Do we have too many herbivores in this country? Do we have like too many deer population? Too many of these things? Are they destroying like plant life and other things like this? Do we need to have a predator in the country to sort of control all of that?
Yeah, I think a predator is far more efficient than we are. But I'm not taking anything away from a professional marksman, and I've when I was presenting a series on Radio 4, I got to interview 2 professional marksmen, and the thing that struck me about them was that they are like the wolves I learnt about in Sweden. So they are the same, and the way they analyze a herd, the ones that they're going to take out are the ones that a wolf would take out. And so the thing I think I'm guarded against is that when we say something is too overpopulated, like for example, it said roe deer around here are overpopulated. When I was growing up, which wasn't that long ago, pregnant pause there for laughter. When I was growing up, as a young naturalist, I saw no deer here at all.
Right.
There were none. Now I've got two little ones here who are mad keen on wildlife, and the one things that they love to do is to go out and watch the deer. They've got something that they can watch, and they are pretty finicky because you can't get that close to them. But it's something that they can watch. It's big enough that they can watch. So I think there's a danger of when people get involved. There's a great danger of me saying, oh, okay, there's too much of this, and lo and behold, suddenly there'll be culling going on everywhere.
Well,
and it won't necessarily be that marksman or wolf
you're just playing
that's
God.
doing.
You're playing God a bit too much. Yeah,
it won't be them. So it will be, and there are examples of this that when I was doing some work with the Forestry Commission, I met their marksmen. One of the things that they didn't like about the PR surrounding overpopulations was that people would literally come out with shotguns and start on the deer,
right.
and all they were doing was injuring them. And so there is a danger if it's backed up with good information and then a plan of what you're going to do. So you make a statement, you say, right, there's too many deer. If there's a full stop there, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You have to actually say what it is you're going to do.
Yeah. So
that you stop a lot of potential cruelty taking place.
Yeah. You need a smart plan. You need something.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no reason why that plan shouldn't involve things like links. In terms of, I know you're going to mention wolf. In terms of wolf, then I've been to places where wolf is recently come back, places around the Gorge de Verdun in France.
Yeah.
And I think the French authorities have done extremely well there, because what they've actually done is that they've managed to convince the local landowners that this is a good idea. And so instead of the old compensation package, whereby if part of your livestock was removed by a wolf, you got compensated. I mean, you can just imagine there were carcasses turning up. There would be carcasses turning up everywhere. So what they actually did, we're just about to be joined by the family.
No worries, no worries.
What they actually did was they paid for farmers that were worried, farmers that had potentially stressed livestock, to go to Romania and be trained how to use proper wolf dogs,
right,
to protect the herd. And then they would come back with puppies, rear them up. And I've seen that project go right through to its end, so to speak, whereby what happens is that you can go to some places in France where you actually see like an electric fence of sheep or goats, and they've got the dogs with them.
Yeah, the
dogs protect, and it works. It works. It's brilliant. It really does work extremely well. So that to me is a bit of common sense. Now, how you would do that in this country, I really don't know. I mean, the lynx is going to be a point in case, and how you get over the fear from the landowner population, and again, that has to be done very carefully and with negotiation. But you bring the wolf into that scenario, And unless you have a government which is forward thinking and says, right, this is what we need to do if we're going to have the wolf back, I think there's places you can do it. And I remember being told that the Cairngorms in Scotland was potentially a good site.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I mentioned that to my friends in Sweden, what they said was that if you consider that their population of wolves in Sweden is actually made up of Russian animals, and when they tagged, sorry, I got a frog in my throat. I'm not ill.
That's all right. No worries.
When they radio tagged Russian wolves, and they turn up, for instance, in Lapland with the reindeer,
mm-hmm.
it would take them around about 2 weeks for them to end up on the edge of Stockholm, in the city.
Yeah.
And so, what my friends in Sweden were saying, so if you put a group of wolves, a family of wolves, in the Cairngorms, you could be within 2 weeks they're in Hyde Park in London. So
yeah,
it's how you get over those type of problems.
Do you think it's just a case of trying to educate the country or educate the people of the country to sort of accept that these animals, they're not a threat, they're not like something you're going to see out and about that's going to attack you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of education to be had. And do you know the worst? What do you think is the worst thing for wolves? Go on, I'm going to test you here.
The worst thing.
What is the worst ever thing for wolves?
A human.
It's a human-made thing, but what is it?
Well, a
What do
gun.
you think it is? Have a guess.
Well, apart from us ourselves, it's probably something we've done. Fences. No.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hold on to something. Little Red Riding Hood.
Right, okay. I wasn't getting that, but I get why, because you brought up believing that wolves are scary things. Same as sharks. It's one of those things where it's like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. So you need to change society's way of thinking about wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to change society's ways of thinking about predators, because of course, when big predators, whether they fly or whether they are on all fours, start coming back, you will have problems. And the problems you're dealing with are a human problem. The animals themselves are fine, they'll sort themselves out, but it's the human problem that you have to sort out.
Why do you think some animals get a free pass then? Because as you alert to, like Little Red Riding Hood, hippos, when you're younger, are these cuddly, chubby things, but as you grow older, they are monsters. They are pure aggressive tank of an animal. Why do some animals get this, like, yeah, it's cute and cuddly, but actually it will destroy you, whereas like a wolf is, I mean, it doesn't want to be around a human. It doesn't want.
Yeah. Well, I think that may be. It's the same as I do lectures on hornets.
Yeah.
European hornet, and one of my inspirations for doing that was to change people's mindset against this animal, which was, if they saw one, they had to whack it,
Mm-hmm.
Or they had to run to the next county to get away from it. So one of my inspirations for that is it's a typical human thing, isn't it? Whereby we do it to each other as well, whereby we know a little bit about something, therefore we don't know the majority about it, and we're reluctant to learn about it, therefore we'll make up that bit that we don't know.
We'll fill the blanks.
And that's where your myths and mysticisms come from. And honestly, the stuff that goes on about hornets is just, well, that's an hour and a half lecture for you. But it's a mindset, and it's a mindset you've got to change. And don't forget that the people have been talking about for a long time, and I'm kind of hoping that the emergency we've been through with the pandemic will bring this home to people of just how really disconnected we are from nature. So one of the things I'm doing on my Facebook page is putting up random pictures of things like dandelions, and of other plants that we would go out and absolutely spray to death with whatever or get rid of. And the thing I'm doing about there is again, it's a very human thing I'm doing. I'm giving the history of the human involvement with something like a dandelion. The fact that we've used this as a medicine, as a food, since we first turned to vegetation. It's been so important to us, and it has amazing properties within it that actually boost our immune system. And here we are in a pandemic talking about ways of boosting our immune systems. And what do we do with it when it's in our lawn? We get rid of it. You only have to go back to the 19th century, where actually, because of the value of something like a dandelion, grass was actually removed so that the dandelions could have the space.
Really?
Boy, how things have changed and how disconnected we've become. Now, you can put that right across everything we're talking about.
It's interesting.
I'm gonna have to go soon, by the way.
Yeah, that's absolutely no worries. I'm just gonna ask you. I'll ask you one more question then. Well, two. I'll put it into one. Have you ever like tracked a big cat of some sort and found one? And then I'll finish this off just to round it up. Big cats in this country, yes or no? Dead simple.
I go back to I seek proof.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I'm going to repeat myself and say I'm not one of those that says no. I'm not one of those that says yes. I'm slightly on the fence because I seek proof. But everything within the environments that I go to, where there are said to be big cats, tells me they're not there.
Right.
And that's not seeing them. That's not finding their footprints. It's what the other animals, the behavior of the other animals that lives there.
Lovely. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there then.
Okay.
This has been really interesting. Thank you for coming on, Chris. And
yeah, if you want to do it again, give me a shout.
Absolutely no worries. I will do, mate. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And
all right.
Any last words? That was very ominous. Sorry.
Take care and stay safe.